I think you can jump right in. Probably most people don't really know much about the project at all. So a general overview and kind of where we are in the process is we're about to submit for a land use review. So we're just teeing up drawings for that. And the timing of this meeting is good. We'd love to have any input you have that may help shape our package that we put together for the city. Go ahead, Brad.
Okay, so the platform I'm going to share it with you on is not your kind of typical presentation slide after slide. We have this thing we use called Miro, which is sort of like a digital whiteboard. So I'll kind of slide as slowly as possible on this digital whiteboard, but I apologize if it gets a little jittery on you. So just to kind of start out talking about what the project is. This is a project for young Black professionals. We're calling it YBP. And it's actually a pair of projects. It's not just the site over at Holgate and 38, but there's also a site over on Ankeny, which is a separate project closer in to town. It's modular construction. And the overall idea for the project is kind of stems from some of the events that have happened over the last couple of years, particularly last year, with the kind of racial inequities that were happening in the country. And hired to try to do something about that and be helpful through architecture and through construction in the city of Portland. So I don't know how much you know about the kind of history of the project, but the idea is that there's actually a program that goes along with it. And the program is an internship program that would bring a student or a recent grad from a university from anywhere in the country that is in the architecture, engineering, or construction business. And the goal is to bring those folks to town through some carrots. So one carrot would be this intern program, which we would pay them, and different firms in town volunteer to take in an intern, either a contractor or an architecture firm or an engineering firm of some sort. And in fact, the whole team of consultants working on this project have volunteered to take in an intern as well. And then once they get here, we want to make them have a carrot to stay. So we're building housing, and the housing is at affordable housing rates of 60% of AMI. And so and we would do that for their entire time for 3 years in Portland. And the entire building is affordable housing. It's not one units to kind of meet the city guidelines for affordable housing. And then once they kind of get out of that program after 3 years, we would then hopefully be able to hire them outright to our firms. But the whole idea is to kind of get someone here and help them stay here and not make it a temporary situation. So this project over on Holgate, I'll kind of jump into the site. The site is at the corner of Holgate and 38. You would recognize the Trader Joe's in the aerial here. It's down off of Cesar Chavez right here. So it's sort of tucked in around the corner, a little bit into the neighborhood. South of our site is what's called the Holgate House. That is another low-income housing project that is owned by Home Forward, which is a group in town that helps build these projects. But this is more for a kind of retirement community within Portland. So, and they have this available site that they've donated to the cause. It's a really small site, actually. It's a square, more or less. You can see in these images, this is the Holgate House in the distance. We're at the bus stop along Holgate, looking back towards the site. And this is sort of a long 38th on the sidewalk. At the other end of the site, you can see the Holgate House here, and this is the other corner. But it's a pretty small site, and it has some community like planter beds for the residents of Holgate House, which will help to relocate or to find a new place for those. So, as I said, this project is kind of based on aiding young African Americans to come to this town and work with us. And so as everybody on the screen, none of us really represent that group. And so we realized that that's a weakness in our scheme. And so and in our industry, completely in our industry. And in fact, I think there are only, as of last year, 4 African-American licensed architects in the state of Oregon. And I think one just retired. So it might be down to 3. And I don't think the numbers are any better for landscape architecture, for engineering contractors. So I think it's a very worthy cause for the project. So what we want to do is find a way to really understand what this community needs, what would be enticing, what would be make it feel like a home and feel like a place that they really want to be, and help us through how to program the building to suit their needs in each unit, and also the amenities within the building. So we worked with a group called SEI, Self Enhancement Incorporated, and it's a African American kind of nonprofit in town that works to build kind of similar goals of making sure that they promote the advancement of young African Americans in town. And we work with them to help create focus groups to ask these questions and to come up with really kind of meaningful things that we may not know off the top of our heads, like what's important to them. What buildings in Portland do they like? Which ones resonate as something off-putting? What kind of spaces feel like they're not welcoming to that community? What is in Portland that maybe a lot of Portlanders care about, but maybe they don't? And it's been a kind of good discovery along the way to understand that. So we feel like we have some good information about things they like. Like apparently they really did not like red buildings with lots of metal panel. They did like transparent materials. They did like kind of dark material buildings. And this is kind of we did this for the whole project. So from there, we took that information and we kind of started to design our building. So this is zooming in on the site. Again, that's Holgate House. You can see it's a pretty square site, and because it's modular construction, you have to be pretty rational about how you lay out the building. And so we kind of came up with this pinwheeling idea. And at the center of the pinwheel are the kind of community spaces, or it's a bit cliche, but the heart of the building, it's a 5-story building. Each level would have something in the middle that would be an amenity for use in the site. This is a little bit of a 3D diagram. You kind of see that red center. The dashed line back here is the Holgate House that's to the south. These are the pinwheeling bars that have the housing within them. And down on the corner at Holgate and 38th, we're thinking of a community space or a common space for the building that opens up to a patio on that corner. That the neighbors around all have these stoops and kind of front yard patios. So it's sort of a gesture to reach back out to the neighborhood as, hey, we're here, welcome in, that kind of thing. And they also kind of give some visibility to the project. So this is kind of where we're landing. So I'll kind of zoom over to these 3 renderings here. And I'll get into the plans in a minute, but I find it a little easier to kind of see the thing first and then describe it. So this is along Holgate. This is the bus stop, which will be moving a little bit with some street improvements along the site. And then this is like one of the bars of the pinwheel. And this is the community space along Holgate. You can see there's a little bit of grade change. The hill goes down Holgate, obviously. So it creates this natural sort of patio, this plinth that jumps up and is a great place to kind of zoom in. You can see there's activities for the people living in the building to use. There's a barbecue down at the end, and then there's some planter beds with some trees to wrap the corner, and a community room on the corner for hosting events, hopefully things that would invite the community in to kind of experience the building as well, but also for private events, such as football game or some other kind of gatherings. You can see it's a it's a building that we're hoping to replicate, and so it is modular construction. The benefits of modular construction are you can build it pretty fast. And a module, if you don't understand what that is it's literally one unit from the front door to the ceiling fan to the toilet to the finishes and are all built off site and then brought in quickly and sat on site. So a construction schedule for a normal project, which is kind of built with lumber or sticks of metal, those things go, a year to build for a project maybe this size, where this should happen much more quickly with less noise and less disruption to the area. We're hoping some kind of special moments in the building. We're going to commission artists from that community to do murals along the building. So one would happen kind of low behind the bus stop for greater visibility. The main entry is here off of Holgate, which is a requirement in this area. Let's see. Each unit, you can kind of see in this little snippet of a rendering, each unit would have a sliding door or sliding window patio door with what's called a Juliet balcony so that they can get experience the outdoors, and each unit would have a ceiling fan inside for air movement. Sliding over here a little bit. These are sort of early renderings. They're not the kind of final, but just to give you an idea of the building. You can see the other mural idea up high in the building, so that as you're coming up Holgate towards Cesar Chavez, you would be able to see a mural up in the air above the treetops. And you can see in this view the corner elevator at the street edge. It's not elevated so high that we have to have a big fence or a big wall, so we're hoping it feels pretty natural as you wrap around the block. We'll walk you through the plans real fast. This is the ground floor plan. This is that community room. 38 is to the west. The plans are north facing, and Holgate is to the north. So the light green is kind of natural area. And this is the bus stop. Some bike hoops over here. The main steps up to the front door. The wraparound porch. Kind of gathering area with a planter box on the end. It's possible that some of the units we're putting some 2 bedrooms and 1 bedrooms in here as well. So there could be families that are living here as well. So maybe a little area for kids to run around, or bocce court over on this side. Grilling is a big deal in this community. So here to kind of engage with the neighborhood. And then I think we're doing a pretty good job of kind of putting all of the services of the building, generator, the electrical room, trash, kind of out of the way and tucked around the corner with access off of 38. And here in the center, you can see these are all bike racks. So we have to support a certain number of bikes within the building per the code as well. So community room and a fitness room on the ground level. Come up the elevator or the stairs. And this is a really typical plan. It kind of repeats itself all over the place. So you can see if I go into one unit, they're quite small. They're like studios, but they have a full bath and a little kitchen. And then it's a sofa bed, basically. You zoom out here. The next plan is level 3. Level 3, you start to see a different kind of amenity in the middle. This is like a TV or lounge room. And then I'm going to draw a square here to show you something else that's happening. So this, let me put this on here, do a special color like blue. This plus this. That's a 1-bedroom unit. You can kind of see how they work together. You come in this door, and then there's a bedroom off the side, and this is the rest of the unit. And then there's another one that kind of backs into it like a clamshell on the other side. In the building, we're required to have a certain number of accessible units. So within the plan, there's an accessible unit called a type A unit. on each floor. And then we also have a 2-bedroom unit, which I will once again make my blue box happen for you to see. So this is a 2-bedroom unit. So we're trying to provide a little bit of a range of housing type within the building, not knowing exactly who's coming and when. So, and then everybody's time of life is different about where they are in their educational experience or their work experience. So there could be kids, there could be spouses, or just somebody that might want a larger unit. So as you can see, they're all pretty stacked. We're also providing, because this building is, these are often students while they're in school, there's actually a little bit of a requirement for them to perhaps extend their education and get a business degree while they're here. We're providing a study space within the building. So on this floor, there's a sort of a library within the center of the floor. And it's a double height library. It has like a space that opens up to more of a fun, loungy library aspect. And then laundry on the top floor, which can exhaust after the roof. That's more or less to kind of give you a flavor of what these amenities are like. These are perhaps a little challenging to understand what they are, but we showed them as a way of kind of describing each amenity space a little bit better to the focus group. So a fitness room lower in the building. We have a space that could double as a craft space. One of these bike spaces might be able to kind of also function doubly as a craft space or a workspace. This is a cutaway showing the ground floor terrace, which has its the community room in the corner, grill, and the kind of area for gardening and for playing. TV lounge space. As you'd expect, there's going to be a foosball or a pool table probably in there. And then up at the uppermost level, that double height study space and lounge space. So it's really just one volume, but you can see it's kind of an active space that will have a skylight on top to bring light down to the center of the building. That is pretty much it. I guess for the numbers, I don't have the program right in front of me. Leslie and Isaac may be able to help, but I think we ended up at 85 units. Is that right? On this site?
I believe that's right. We should also mention there's no parking provided on site. People will be, if they have a vehicle, they'll be parking in the neighborhood, but there'll be a lot of incentives to take public transportation. Of course, the site is very well connected to a couple different transportation lines through TriMet.
So maybe I'll just pause there. You may have any questions about the project?
Yeah, 85 cars parking on the street. Sounds like not a good idea.
Well, concerned that the lack of parking will be a deterrent to people living in the building. I know you're promoting public transportation, but public transportation in Portland is not as convenient for every single need that you have.
I'm honestly not worried about it being a negative to drawing people to the building. I think we're reaching across the country and within Portland itself to find people that would want to move. So it's in terms of just actually getting people to move here without an on-site parking, that doesn't really scare me.
And then what about the neighbors? Because 85, I mean, it's potentially 85 cars. What if it's just 60 cars or 75 cars? There's really only 38 that's even kind of convenient walking distance for park. So how many blocks of our neighborhood is going to be affected by parking for this project?
I have not scaled the entire block and how a car fits the entire block. I would guess if the site is 100 feet wide, if I'm not mistaken, the car's stall is 20 feet. You can get 5 cars along the street, more or less, 4 or 5. Not to mention that the Holgate itself has more parking along it than probably 38 does. But no, it's a legitimate concern. It's a bigger building than the houses in the neighborhood for sure. There is on-street parking in the neighborhood. It's already being used. So if we kind of zoom in here.
But it's inconvenient at that intersection because of all the businesses. It's just a difficult place to
There's
park.
not a lot of parking on Holgate there because it widens out to 3 lanes with the left turn lane. And there's a lot of difficult spots.
I think it helps somewhat that Holgate House has their own parking lot. So there is the frontage on 38th for that Holgate House has that, could be residents of this building as well.
It sounds like there's no actual solution. It's just tough going, guys. Your neighborhood's going to be filled up with cars.
Can I just?
That's what I hear you saying.
Well, the city does not require us to provide parking, and it's not really something we can afford to include in this project and still offer all the units at an affordable price.
Excuse me, is it a walk-up 5 floors or an elevator? It was difficult to see.
There's an elevator as well.
Okay, another question. What's the square footage of a 1-bedroom? What's the square footage of a 2-bedroom? And what's the square footage of a studio?
The studios are about 230 square feet.
Okay.
The 1-bedrooms are about 330 and the 2-bedrooms about 440 square feet.
Okay.
So they're small. They're small units.
Yes, very small, yeah.
Yeah. And the idea is these are students, they're going to class, they're doing internships, they're studying in this building, and they live here for the 3-year duration of the program. And then once they're done with the program, they're moving up and out of this project and being able to afford things at market rate. So it's really a transition project for them.
What's the target schools like? So because there's also, I'm just curious, like, again, for trying to understand where these 85 folks are going to school, like where do you see them going to school?
Well, they're all they could be within a school program like at PCC or PSU, or taking other classes online from their rooms. But everyone that's here is an intern at a business that's either a construction business, an architectural business, or an engineering business.
And is that a requirement for occupancy?
Yes, they need to be participants in the program to live in the building. And they need to be young Black professionals. That's who the project is for.
And are you guaranteeing that with some sort of land covenant? Or what's your
62 people. Huh?
Say that again?
So for ensuring that you're getting that target group, is that built into lease agreements as planned now, or you guaranteeing that with some sort of land covenant, or how is that being guaranteed?
The program is facilitated by a group called Self Enhancement Inc. They are a long-standing group in Portland that has started, initially they started doing after-school programs for young Black students. It's a Black locally based organization, and this is a sort of offshoot of that organization, a kind of outgrowth of it at the internship level. So anybody that lives here has to be a participant in that program. The program is facilitating this building.
And I really like that, but how do we know that that will continue in future? Like, is there a 20-year contract with them, or a land covenant, or what?
There is a 60-year land lease with the owner of the property, which is Home Forward, which owns the building to the south. So yes, the developer and the program is committing to this site for a 60-year time frame.
Excellent. That's exactly what I was asking. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I think, I don't, speaking only for myself, but I really love the idea. I think it's a beautiful idea. Just, concerned about, those schools are not convenient to get to from, they're pretty far. Those two schools you mentioned are pretty far. So just trying to figure, again, practically, hate to keep using the P word, but they're going to be, if you're going to Portland State, you're going to be driving. So I just would really challenge you guys to think through that, like the experience of living there without a car. I don't know.
You ever tried parking at Portland State?
Or what's, yeah, I guess that's true. But yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, Brad and I both live not too far from here, and we both bike downtown to work on a daily basis. So I think, some people will prefer to drive, but hopefully there'll be at least as many that will take the bus or ride their bike, or,
I honestly think
we'll be encouraging that.
after the last 2 years of COVID, I suspect the study lounge and people will, I bet there'll be a ton of online courses actually, because these will also they'll be working, right? So it's not going to be as much daytime class opportunity as it will be for a typical student.
Gotcha.
A detailed question. If I heard you right, your goal is 60% MFI. Are you pulling that from most recent American Community Survey? And does that update over time?
Yes,
it does update.
It's a Portland benchmark.
Okay.
Yes, and it would be 100% of the units in the building at the 60% MFI level. All units. Yep.
For anyone listening back to this, Portland has a state of housing report that they put out every year that makes that easy to get to. I had a question about the modular construction element. Does that have much of an impact on earthquake resilience?
They're still they still must be built to the structural building code, just like any other building. So there's really no difference between the requirements for resiliency between this kind of construction or any other construction in the eyes of the code and basically the law. If you kind of think about what they're built like, they have each unit has its own floor and its own roof, and then they're built and sat on top of each other. So there's actually a lot of redundant structure within each unit, and they come together, and there's two walls coming together and they're strapped together. So they're pretty bomb-proof. But yeah, they have all the same requirements that any other building have concrete or still would have.
I think the question really is in the foundation. That's the important, if you will, anti-earthquake situation.
The site work and the foundation for the building is concrete. It's cast concrete, and there are other concrete elements around the ground floor, basically in the red area in this drawing, that provide that structural enhancement for lateral loading in a seismic event. So there's a kind of tandem things that work. There's the modules themselves, and there are other elements that just make a building happen that are adding to all the structural resiliency for the building.
150 for a 2-bedroom.
In more detail, are you thinking about right now for adjustments to that street and sidewalks on Holgate particularly?
So what's going to change? So we have to improve the whole corner. We'll have improvements on the sidewalk. I think maybe one that's most visible might be the bus stop is getting kind of pushed onto our site to kind of make the sidewalk a little bit wider there. New street trees along those streets. I'm not really sure what's there on the corner now, but kind of accessible curb cuts as you come in across as a pedestrian from across 38 or across Holgate. And I'm not sure, but I do believe, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, Isaac, but I think that the sidewalk is widening.
It is.
To the new standard Portland widths. So
that's correct. Sidewalks are getting wider to meet PBOT's current standard.
Great, that's answers my question. Thank you. That's what I had.
Sounds like those are all of our questions.
Okay, great. Well, we can wrap up a kind of package of information for you, maybe a little additional information about the project goals at large, about what the kind of history of the project is in total, and we can get that to you at a later date.
Great.
Thank you. We'd also really love your current forecast for what the timeline will be. I know that's a moving target usually.
I'm sorry, you want to know the schedule for the?
Yes, thank you. The schedule.
I will turn that over to my project manager, Leslie Clay.
450 is a 2-bedroom.
Yes, we still need to submit for permit. That is a very lengthy process at the city right now. It can take as much as 9 months for the city to review a permit set. So we're hopeful that you'll see some action on the site here next summer.
Really appreciate your time, and again, really love the idea. It's unbelievable shame that there are only 4 licensed Black architects in our whole state. So, hopefully this will help that.
Yeah, really appreciate it. I'm really glad you're working with SEI and building in those long-term protections there.
Yeah, good. We're excited about it.
Thank you for having us. If you have any questions that come up later, you have my email address. Don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Everybody.
Bye-bye.